Ayan. Hello everyone at good evening po sa ating lahat. I'm sorry for that delay. Pero ayan, nandito na po tayo. So, welcome to Administrative 104 webinar on Office Management for Administrative Excellence, brought to you by Scale Up Training and Development. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Of course, I welcome our participants na andito sa Zoom ngayon, and of course, hindi makakalimutan ang participants natin na nasa Facebook live stream. So for tonight or for this session, ang focus natin is on office management for administrative excellence. Office management for administrative excellence. So applying management functions such as planning, staffing, organizing, directing, training, controlling systems, and discipline to fully maximize office potential. And before we begin, please be reminded of the following. Please keep your microphones muted to minimize background noise. Next is to use the chat box responsibly for your questions and comments. Next is let's respect our speaker and fellow participants at all times. Next is to stay focused and engaged throughout our session. And lastly, kung kaya, please keep your cameras on to make our session more interactive naman. So, this webinar is actually a part, and in fact, the fourth webinar from our administrative series under, of course, Scale Up Training and Development. And last week lang, no, we had Administrative 103, which is the webinar on office administration, kung saan we discussed kung paano ma-maximize ang organizational efficiency by streamlining workplace operations and enhancing productivity. And this time, we take it a step further by focusing on office management, where strategy, structure, and leadership come together to achieve excellence, or shall we say, administrative excellence. Our mentor for tonight is a communication specialist, an operations manager, political advisor, political campaign manager, and public relations specialist. So they are a licensed securities representative, a certified trust professional, a certified UITF sales personnel, a certified financial markets professional, and a certified advanced equity analyst, and a member of the Financial Education Association. So let us all welcome Mentor Matias. Ayan, Mentor, are you there? I guess wala pa po ang ating mentor. Wait lang for a while. Ayan, I think, nahihirapan pong pumasok sa Zoom ang ating mentor. So, I'm really sorry sa mga participants. Pero, um, if, let's wait for a while lang muna. And then, hintayin po natin. Baka pwedeng mag-dinner muna kayo saglit dyan while waiting. Ayun, I'm very sorry.
Oh,
Ayan, again, sa mga bagong pasok, baka po nagtataka kayo ba't tahimik. Ang ating mentor is, I think, nahirapan po siyang pumasok sa Zoom. So, let's wait for a while lang. We apologize for this delay, pero rest assured na matutuloy po ang webinar tonight. Um, thank you for your patience po. Hello, mentor. Good evening po. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Good evening.
Okay, sige. I will introduce the mentor again. So for tonight, our mentor is a communication specialist, operations manager, political advisor, a political campaign manager, and a public relations specialist. So they are a licensed securities representative, a certified trust professional, a certified UITF sales personnel, a certified financial markets professional, and a certified advanced equity analyst. And they are also a Financial Education Association member. So let us all welcome Mentor Matias. So okay po, Mentor, you now have the virtual floor.
I have the floor now.
Yes, Mentor.
I don't know if. Okay. Can you see me, everyone?
Makita naman po and audible.
Okay. Sabto. Well, hello again, everyone, and good evening. As mentioned by the our host for tonight, I'm Matias Reyes. You can call me Matt. Um, and currently, I'm working as a consultant for the city government of Davao for investment promotion. I also work as a operations manager for a construction firm based in Australia, a administrative manager for a South African-based franchising company, and the press public relations specialist for a publishing house based in the USA. Um, Well, I'm here tonight, as mentioned, to talk about management for administrative excellence. And this is actually the first time I'll be talking about this. I've been doing a lot of talks on investment promotions, on political marketing, on political management. And administrative excellence, although I've been doing it in practice and I've been doing it for quite some time, I really didn't have the experience of talking about it in front of people, and that makes me kind of excited for for today's session. Before we begin, may I know where everyone is coming from? Is everyone from Davao, or please type in chat where everyone is coming from? Oh, we have from Cebu. Okay. And now we have from Bicol. Well, good evening, everyone. We have from Palawan, and I have been wanting to go to Palawan for quite some time already. Okay. Caloocan City, Occidental Mindoro. Okay. We have Bicol, Catanduanes. Catanduanes. Yeah, okay. Never been there. Batangas, Wow, Cagayan Valley. As far as that, Bicol, Camsur. I've been to Camsur at one point. Ilocos Sur, Danao City. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for that to those responses. Um before I started working in online, I work online in 2010 as a copywriter, as a content writer, but I stopped working online starting 2016 during the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. I was asked to work for the Department of Agriculture as an executive assistant three. I also worked I worked with a lot of government offices. I worked with um, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission in Cotabato City, and now I work for the government for the city government of Davao. And these experiences, I have learned from these experiences that administrative excellence really is different in different types of work. Well, it has its absolutes, but it has its difference. It also has its different and varying challenges, which enrich the experience that I had. Thank God for that. Well, to continue, we'll be talking about management for administrative excellence, building systems, clarity, and professional impact. So, okay, but before we doing that, I want to ask you guys to turn on your camera. It might be problematic with our bandwidth. Please mute when not speaking. You can use the chat for to participate if you have questions. Please type it in. We respect time and opinion. So, guys, type in ready if we are ready to begin. Hello, people from Pangasinan. Are we ready na ba? Everyone, we are ready. Ayan. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Now, before we begin, this is the objective of today's session. By the end of this session, you should be able to understand admin work as management work, apply management principles to daily administrative tasks, improve time, communication, and systems, which I think is the heart and core of doing excellent administrative work, and hopefully commit to practical improvements that you can use in your administrative work, in your daily administrative work. Okay, first, I want to ask everyone, what makes admin work stressful? What makes it stressful? Let's see what you guys will be discussing. Good evening po from UP Bindan. Hello from La Union. So what makes administrative work stressful? Multitasking, yes, correct. True, very true. Anyone else? Multitasking. Oh, again, multitasking. Always the hardest and the most stressful part of um admin work. Other reasons, factors that makes administrative work stressful, tight deadlines, always the deadlines, yes. Interpersonal conflicts, which always and always happens, especially in your if you are in admin. There's like a kind of uh notoriety that if you're in admin, most of the time, if not always, I mean sometimes, if not most of the time, you are you are being looked at as an opposition for the rest of the people that works in the company. Management issues, yes, very much, especially in very bureaucratic setup. Like when I used to work for the Department of Agriculture, that was the national office, and we had bureaucracy on layers of bureaucracy on top of everything. Miscommunications, which I think should be again the core of what administrative work should be. The whole company literally depending on the admin HR. Yes, limited resource. Yeah, yeah. Some of the things that you mentioned, they happen. They're the most stressful parts of working for as an admin officer, as an admin assistant, or anyone who works within the admin field. And this is a reality that many of us are trying to deal with. And this is are also the reasons why many admins are burned out, eventually quitting, stress piling over and over again, even after work, even if you don't do overtime, if you go home, there's still a lot of things that you need to reconcile in your head when you do admin works. And while other people look at admin work as simply inputting things, putting things in the computer, filing things, recording things, many people think that it's as easy as that. But admin is more than just what people think. Do you agree, guys? Mahirap palang magsalita when you are alone in a webinar setting. This is the first time I'm doing this, and this is exciting. Well, anyway, the reality of admin work. What really is admin work? And as I have mentioned, many people tend to think that admin work is simply filing papers, recording, filing records of the company, records of employees, and all of those things. Like a simply clerical job that tends to overreach into authority. That's how some people look at how administrative work is. But in reality, if you really look at it and if you really delve down to the reality of admin work, it has four core roles, which I think should be many admin people should be aware of because not everyone does. That's the problem. Some of the admin people that works in admin, because I have worked with admin people, they do not know that this is part of the reality of their job. Okay. Number one, administrative work controls the information flow. And often this is overlooked that at some point it's the admin that is not aware of information about the company. Like some information goes from top executives directly to the workers and the admin does not know it. That's one of the problems that many have encountered. I encountered it a lot of times and it creates a chaotic environment for both the admin people and those that are working for the company. So that's one of the things that you need to make sure that if you are in admin, you have to have a wide degree of control when it comes to the flow of information in the company, not just from top executives down to the last employee, but external going internal and internal going external information. You should have a grasp and knowledge of this information, and you have the control of this information. Um, I understand that many admin workers do not have that privilege because the top management is not very particular in understanding that admin, the admin has to have the information. Well, unless it's too late. The next core, um, the next core work of admin is we manage time and coordination. Sometimes, when when a large company has its admin officer and has operations manager, oftentimes these uh two supposedly distinct um job job designations clash and overlap. And oftentimes, because well, operations has sounded like it carries more weight than just admin work. Oftentimes, um, time management and coordination is put on operations and admin is being left behind, which should not be the case in how a company or an organization should operate. Admin work supports decision making, and this is basic. The decision of top management relies heavily on information. So if you control the information, information about employee productivity, information about employee well-being, information about employee attendance, information about um, work problems, chaotic work environment, conflicts inside of the office, um, and other parts of the production. And if you have the information on what is going on, it has to be it has to be sufficient and comprehensive enough that it should support how top management should do their decision. So data is very important in admin work. And if you don't have the necessary data, you fail as an admin because you have to have what it takes to support the decisions being made by top management. That's the reality of it. Then another thing is you need to well, admin work means keeping operations running. And this is in some cases some admin workers tend to also get paralyzed when operations get paralyzed. When in fact, it should be the admin people who has the power and the responsibility to keep the operations running. In small businesses, in small organizations where the president, the chairman, or the CEO is directly involved in the operational process, it happens that in some cases, when the CEO, the chairman, or the president is out, when he's on vacation, the operation seems to be on hold. And because the practice is that the president, the CEO, or the chairman is very much involved in operational work, the admin tends to take a step back. And when it's time to keep operations running, the admin doesn't know how to do it efficiently and effectively. So if you work in admin, even if the head of the organization, the president, the chairman, or the CEO is actively involved in the operations, in the daily operations of the organization, including directly giving instructions to team members, directly giving instructions on how processes should work. The admin has to have a good grasp of how the operations work, even if even if at the moment the admin is not actively leading the operations. You should have a grasp of how it works, how it runs. Because by the time that the head of the organization goes out, it's your job to keep the operation running. And if you cannot do that, well, you're failing at your job. Do we have questions so far? Yeah. Okay. As I mentioned, admin is not just support. And administrative work does have its notoriety as being, just a supporting role in the operations of an organization, operations of a company, especially in very big organizations and very big production facilities and production entities. Admin seems to take a step back and be able to, it's a support because the star is the production, the star what's at the middle is the production people, those who really um, produce, those who really work on the core business offerings, the core products of the company. And most of the time, admin takes a step back. We're just supporting the production. We're just supporting the people who actually work in the business. And it's not just that. And it should not be that. If you feel like if you're currently working as an administrative officer in your organization and you feel like you are doing a support role and that's just what you're doing as of the moment, I think you need to relearn on how what's your supposedly your role. Number one, you admin work. Admin workers are operational support, meaning and a requirement is that you have to have a full grasp of how the organization or the company operates. You provide all necessary support from beginning, from and as we know, admin HR from headhunting to recruitment to onboarding to training and then to making sure that the well-being of and the interest of the workers remain within the company. This is just one facet of it. Another thing that admin supports in operations is having the right information, data. Data and information is something that admins handle. Second is that the information coming from the top management and top executives related to work processes, related to operational processes, how the admin manages this information and how the admin um, spreads this information is critical in the operation of the company. If the admin don't know how to manage information, it stops from being a good operational support into becoming an operational problem. So that's one. Second is admin is more on process coordination. So just recently, in August, I was hired as an operations manager for a construction company in Australia, and they have been in the business for 22 years already. So that's how long they have been in the construction industry. But when I stepped in, the problem was that they do not have workflows, they do not have standard operating procedures, they do not have manual of operation. So they do not have foundational documents on how they organize their work inside of the company. How they do not have a marketing division. They just have an SDR, sales development representative, and that's one. An estimator for um, quoting the jobs, and office manager based in Australia, and one chief operations officer, well, who does not have the necessary skill in doing, I mean, experience in doing operations management. When I came in, the first thing that I noticed is that again, there's no documentational foundations in everything that they do. So the first thing that I did is to diagram all of the process that they have been doing. How for example, in the part of the SDR, how he does client engagement, how he uses Zoho as a CRM, how he does email marketing. So I mapped this all out, and in mapping it, I created a standard operating procedure coming from there. And with that, we were able to pinpoint the bottlenecks, the problems, the unnecessary processes that is not needed to make the work effective and efficient. And that's the beauty of admin work. Being able to map out, supposedly, again, the operational process of the company. If you're an admin officer and you do not have this in your hand, you should, because that's part of the job. You have to understand processes from start to finish. Every process in the company, you should have a copy or at least create a manual of operations on how operations run. I think that's a very important document for any admin officer. Having that manual of operations from start to finish, from work days to specific types of job to specific production work. It's very important to have that document. And when you don't have that document in your hand, you don't have the control of the process. You don't have the control of the operations. You have to have that because you have to be able to map out in your mind how everything works inside of the company. If you don't, you'd better start outlining what you need. You would need an operations manual. You need standard operating procedures for particular processes for each of the work that the company does. These are foundational documents, and this is something that you should understand. This will allow you to do process coordination, and this will allow you to have an eagle's eye view of how the company runs. With this eye view, you'll be able to identify problems before they even happen, manpower issues before they even happen, because you already understand how this process works and how this should work. So that's something that you have to have with you. Again, if you don't, it's time. You need to talk to your um, management. Is that something that you have? Is that something that you can have? Is that something that you can review? If not, it's your work to discuss with them that you need to have those documents started on. Okay. Another work for admin is we help the company prevent uh, risks. Um, Compliance and making sure that we are compliant with all governing rules and regulations on company operations and establishment. Compliance on human resource management. compliance, making sure that our productivity and income generation is on point. That's the work of the admin. Why? Because it's the admin that dictates that, okay, we need to sit down on this. We need to make a review of this. According to what we're receiving, this is a problem. And so we need to sit down on this. If during the whole process, something that goes wrong in the process, and because, well, you know how the operation works, you know that it will affect the endpoint of the company, it's the job of the admin to ask everybody to sit down. Well, not directly. You have to talk to the management that, okay, you are um, you are identifying a problem, a potential problem that may gravely affect the company, and you provide that data because I said decision. You are a support the decision makers, and recommend that we have to sit down and we need to talk this out. Many people think that's overreaching for someone in admin work, but I do believe it's what's necessary. It's what separates those that are mediocre, those that just do admin work for compliance, and those that are really proactive in doing admin work. That's how we do it. We um we make sure that everything goes smoothly inside of the company. That we are safeguarding the operations. Another work, another role that we have is, we as mentioned, you have to have manual of operations, you have to have standard operating procedures because you are the workflow, you lead the workflow. If something is questionable in the process, people should be able to come to you and say, okay, are we doing this right? What's missing? What's the problem? You should have a mastery of the workflow inside of the company, not just admin work, but operations work as well, the actual operations itself. You have to have that in order for you to become a valuable and excellent admin officer. If you have questions, guys, you can type in your questions as we go along, and I will try to answer it along the way. This is what I've been trying to say. There are two types of, well, admin people, the reactive ones and the proactive ones. The reactive ones wait for instructions, fixes problems late, and always rushing. If they're just reacting to everything that's going wrong inside of the company and just waiting for instructions to happen because, well, many people in admin work are already master in basic administrative work, but never goes beyond the basic administrative work. We wait for instructions. If problems happen, we fix it, and eventually it's too late. And we seem to always rush things. And that's how reactive administrative people work, which I think is really, really problematic. And something that I really don't like. I had admin people work under me in the past, and I have seen these types of people. And because of because sometimes administrative work can be really comfortable. If you know, if you look at the default work of admin work, it's definite. It's you know what to do. You already have the skill set. You already have the experience. It's sometimes mechanical and sometimes monotonous. And somehow this creates a comfortable space for people to be lenient and to be passive. Na over time, people just wait for instructions and they become inefficient in what they do. Proactive administrative people, on the other hand, anticipates needs. As I mentioned, you have the mastery of operations. If something is about to go wrong, before something goes wrong, you should already have prior knowledge to it. You should already have a intelligent assumption that this will happen and this is the need that we need. Proactive admin also plans ahead. For experienced admin people, they already know within a an annual cycle. They already know what problems they'll be encountering from month to month, and they plan ahead based on those experience. And because of this planning, because of this anticipation, they prevent problems from happening inside of the work. Um, so admin is invisible leadership, and it's not the support role. It's not the right hand, the left hand, or what's below the management. You lead by reliability because operations should rely on information coming from admin. They should rely on the support that admin provides. They rely to the information that the admin provides. Accuracy. Accuracy is very important thing in administrative work. We all know that. Professional behavior. And this is something that's expected of every administrative people that we always possess that professional behavior and again. And this is the I think the core of what we're talking about, the anticipation of issues, the mastery of the process, and the mastery of how things are supposed to work. So because how you behave, how you work as an administrative person, that's what leadership is. It's not just position. It's behavior. It's what you do and how you do it. So is everyone still okay? Can you say hi? Can you say hi if you're still here? Mahirap pala magsalita when you're alone and you cannot hear people, no? Okay, hi. Okay, then you're still here. I'm glad. Feeling ko kasi, because it's very silent. Feel like I'm just talking to myself. Oh, you're still there. Okay. Thank you. Maraming salamat for that. Okay. So management and admin work. This is how you do admin work. And this is how you manage admin work. And this is how it should be done. Okay? Um, Number one, you plan the work. Admin work is um predictable. So you can plan with it. Even the issues that may arise over time, it's predictable. So you can plan them. You can plan it ahead. Second is that you organize the processes. If admin process itself is problematic inside of the admin department, if your process is problematic, it goes to say that your understanding of the operations and your understanding of how things work in the company is also problematic. And you have to organize processes. This is very important. You have to uh, you have to have a clear understanding of how things should start, how things should be going, and how things should end. And that's how admin work is. You lead through coordination. You coordinate every part of the organization. You coordinate every facet of the organization. That's how you lead. As I mentioned, administrative work is invisible leadership, and that's how you lead. You monitor deadlines. What's one of the problems. The problem most of the time is that it's not that deadlines come in. Deadlines come in quick. Most of the time, um, the problem is that we do not plan correctly before the deadline. We rely too much on kaya pa yan. Okay pa yan. Pwede pa yan bukas. Pwede pa yan on the next day. And if and many of us, even me, I'm guilty of it. And even if it happened time and again, that because of this leniency, because of this kumpiyansa, that I can make it before the deadline, I I have problems at work. Nangyari na ito before, and it still continues to happen. We overestimate time, we overestimate our capacity, and we underestimate the probability of more work, more urgent work coming in. That's why we have problems with deadlines. Next is that our the best way to manage admin work is to communicate clearly. Even if you have all the necessary information, even if you are the go-to person, the go-to department, for every concern in the operations. Even if you map out the operations inside of your head, you already anticipate the needs, anong mangyayari, anong problema ang mangyayari, and prepare and have prepared for those problems. If you are not able to communicate these things clearly, you would have a very big problem. Communication, horizontal and vertical communication. Communication from you going to the management. If you cannot communicate clearly what you do in admin, that would be a problem. If you cannot communicate properly with those in the vertical, in those in the horizontal of those people working in the company, if you cannot communicate with them clearly, then you cannot lead them properly, even if you try your best to coordinate with them. Communication is vital. And we are not just talking about highly sophisticated communication techniques. We are talking about clear instructions. We're talking about consistent communication, and we're talking about open communication channels. Those three are very important in communications when you do admin work. This is management. This is how you do, and this is how you manage admin work. Planning, organizing, leading, coordinating, monitoring deadlines, and communicating. These five things make admin work manageable if done properly and effectively. Next, this is the management cycle. And I don't know if many of you already know this, but this is how management should work. You plan, ayun yung mga aso. You plan, you organize, you lead, you control, you communicate. These are the five steps, non-negotiable steps in order. You plan first, you organize, you lead, you control, and you communicate. This applies to email, this applies to calendars, this applies to reports, meetings, and systems. Now, let's talk about um, let's talk about systems. You plan first. You create the plan. You map everything out. With that plan, you organize how the system will work. Then once you already done that, you lead people. You give it to people. This is how we will do it. Then when people starts doing it, you control. You look at how people do it. Are they doing it properly? They doing it correctly? If not, it's your time to control. No? And that's where communication comes. If you see that within your control, people are not doing it properly, you communicate. Okay, you're not doing it right. This is how you do it. In leading, controlling, and communication, these three should not be too far apart with each other. When you start doing controls, when you start controlling how it works, communication should always follow. Why? Because it gives a frame to whatever the people are doing. If people are doing it right, you have to communicate with them that yes, you are doing it right, so that they will have an idea that they are doing it right. If they are doing it wrong, you have to communicate with them that you are doing it wrong, so they have an idea that it's wrong. You see what I mean? These control and communicate has to go hand in hand together. If you control but you do not communicate, that's a problem. If you communicate but it doesn't have control, that's also the problem. These two things should go hand in hand when you, after you lead people into doing things that you need to do. And we're not just talking about dealing with people. We're talking about the actual works that you do. If you do emails, if you do calendars, plan ahead. Organize it first before you start implementing things in your head. Plan, organize it. Then lead the way, take the action. Then control, communicate. These five management cycles are very, very important. And once that things are in place, once the controls are there, it's also your job to communicate the process, because the admin processes should not be internal. It should be something that the whole organization is aware of, because they rely heavily on your support. So they have to have an understanding of your processes. Next, planning for, okay. let's start with planning. How do we plan? Okay. Um, there's a quote that says, if you fail to plan, you're actually planning to fail. And planning is an essential part of every process, not just admin work, but even in operational work in different areas and in different industries. Planning is a necessary component of the whole process. I have worked with a lot of organizations. I have worked with political organizations, non-government organizations. I work for the government. I work for the academia, and I work with mass-based organizations. And one thing that I have um, noticed over time is that people tend to disregard or does not really give emphasis on honing their planning skills. Okay, say for example, when we do just recently, I had a training. I created a training for purok leaders in our barangay. There were 28 of them because we have 28 puroks, and um, giving them, it was 4 modules, and the last module was to create a strategic plan for 2026 and what they would do. So I these people are, they have the experience, and they're way older than me. Um, so during the planning process, I wanted to see how they really look at planning because that's the gist of the module. So I let them, okay, this is what you will do. This is the matrix. I provided them a matrix. What's the issue? What do you want to do? What's your desired outcome? What you would want to do, and what kind of support you need, and the timeline. So I just told them that you just plan everything from capacity building to actual purok management work and organizational for your organization. So I just gave that instruction, gave them the um, matrix. So I let them. I'll give you 30 minutes and then I'll come back. When I came back, they had a lot of things. They listed 20 plans, and then they are a group of three. So you just imagine there are more than 60 plans that everyone was doing about just about anything. So I sat down with them and I asked them, how many of these plans do you think you could pull off on the next year? They say, of course, all of it. We're confident that we can do it. Okay, so let's discuss your timeline. Let's discuss that one. Do you know, example, this one, item number one? Um, uh, because one of the problems that they saw is there are a lot of stray dogs in our barangay, and we don't have a dog pound facility. And so what they wanted was that to have a system, to have a group of people who will catch these stray dogs and put it in the dog pound. So that's one of the plans that they want. So I said, number one, is it within your authority to create this kind of system? Because you're just purok leaders. You are not elected by the officials. Second, do we have the necessary facility to make this happen? Does the barangay have the necessary facility? We do not have. Does the barangay have the budget to create a group, to create a department that focuses on managing, catching this strays? And well, the answer was no. So that's what I was telling them. Many times, planning is too forward looking that it fails to consider the basics. That it fails to consider the present status quo of things. That sometimes, and even most of the time, planning becomes too ambitious. Planning becomes um, too far fetched. So I told them, because planning is the first part of everything, you have to have a clear skill. You have to be better in planning things. And how do you do correct planning? Number one, the outcome should be clear. You should be able to pinpoint how it will end. How does, like, below it, you can say, before starting, you ask yourself, what does done look like? How does it look like that? Okay, completed, done. How does it look like? Second is, along the way, while you're planning, are there clear instructions? Meaning, is there a clear process on reaching that specific and clear outcome? Because if you can only think of the outcome and cannot put together the process in your head, then that outcome might be impossible. That might not be practical. Good planning means a clear set of the process that will surely lead you to that clear outcome. Third is that it has to have a clear timeline. You know, um, I told them you have a lot of things that you want to do, 60 things, and some of it, are the same. So let's say you have 30, 50% of it are unique, and you only have 12 months of the year, and you are not full-time workers. And you also have other things like your business people, and some of you work. And I told them you are very much optimistic when it comes to the generosity of time. You don't have that much time. I told them. That's why timeline. I put on the last part that there has to be a timeline because you have to understand how these things space out together. Do we have a clear timeline of things? Because if you don't understand, if you don't tune in process with time, well, the process may not work. The process may take longer than it should. And delays and problems may affect may affect its outcome. So you have to have a clear timeline on how you do things. Step one, this will take us 1 day. Step two, 2 to 3 days for this. Step three, 4 to 5 days for this. Step five, so on and so forth. You have to have an anchored timeline for every part of the process that you're creating. If you cannot pinpoint how that works, you have to do a simulation. If okay, emailing, emailing these people takes about 15 minutes. Oh, you do it. Try natin. If you can do it in 15 minutes, okay. If it's less than 15 minutes, okay, you put 15 minutes. If it's 15 minutes exact, oh, you have to put, oh, that's 18 minutes because you have to consider that there will be a time that we are not as effective and we are not as sharp because, those things happen. So timeline is essential. Okay? Good planning means fewer mistakes because you already map out things in your head. And when mapping out processes, and this is also something that many people lack. They are already convinced that the process works. What they fail to see is what things could go wrong. When I do planning sessions with colleagues and my bosses, I always ask along the way, what could possibly go wrong in this? Number one, the turnaround time should be 24 hours. Okay, what if they were not able to send it in 24 hours? What will happen now? Will it affect the whole timeline and so on and so forth? So you have to you have to be your own red team. You have to be your own opposition. Good planning means anticipating what could possibly go wrong in your in the process that you're doing. Okay, daily three priorities, and um, I think many because multitasking has always been a problem for many of us, and as I know many of you already know this. you know, getting, identifying three top priorities every day, doing it, eating the biggest frogs first in the morning, doing the hardest jobs, prioritizing urgent versus important, those things. And I know you already had all the trainings and all the information. But there comes a time when work really is overwhelming. And during these times, you have to be really honest with yourself. You know, the problem with multitasking is that we tend to we tend to overestimate our own capacity and uh, multitasking, allowing yourself to do multitasking because that's what the job dictates, rather than communicating to your supervisor or to the management that, you know what, this is something that cannot be done right now. We need to schedule these things. In this new job that I have, that my newest client is, the Australian construction company. And because they don't have processes in place, they do not have foundational documents, everything seems to be urgent. We need this, we need this, we need this. I only work for them for 6 hours a day just to, help in the operations. And I cannot commit for a full-time 8-hour job because I also have other clients. Everything seems to be really urgent. So every now and then, the COO, Chan, keeps on sending me voice messages in WhatsApp. He sends me voice messages even during off shift. So yes, a lot and he doesn't type things. He sends voice messages. When I wake up in the morning, because Australia is we are 3 hours ahead, so they wake up earlier than me, and I usually go to work at 9 a.m. So around 4 a.m. pa lang, John is already at work, and John is already working. So by the time I wake up, I can see at least 15 voice messages that he wants to do. Matias, this is what I want. And this is for the marketing, and so on. Those are 15 things. And you know what I do? Because as much as I want to grant his wish, what I do is that I list all of it. Okay, one, two, three. These are all the things that that you want me to do within the day job. But I can only do at least three of this. Which do you want me to prioritize? And that's how I communicate with him. I have to be honest with my boss that some things cannot be done. And if it's possible to do it, the quality may not be the same. So instead of me identifying the priorities, I said it to him. Okay, these are the 15 things that you asked me to do. I can only do three today. Which three do you want? Which three do you need urgently? And I can do the rest for tomorrow. So he says, "Oh, this." That sets um a clear parameter and a clear priority for me for the day. So that gives me my daily three priorities. And the same should be asked of yourself. The problem with multitasking is not a productivity hack. You know, multitasking is actually a poor way of doing work for me. Why? If you multitask, the quality of the output tends to go down. And that's a problem. It should Quality should always comes first in all of our outcomes. When you multitask, there are possibilities, because you skip some steps, you forget some things along the way, and that impacts the work and the output that you give out. And that is really, really problematic. For me, doing good work means being able to focus on certain priorities. And that's how we do good work. Putting our um all our energy, putting all our attention on it so that it will come out as we want it to come out. And I discourage everyone from doing multitasking as much as possible. I know there are times that madali lang namang sabihin yan if you can choose what you have to do. And meron kaming mga deadline. I understand that. And you have to do, you have to finish this at a certain time. But because I plan, and when my boss gives me this, and this is the deadline, I have to be realistic about it. I have to be practical about it. I know this is urgent, and these are the things that I'm still doing. I don't think I can make it to the deadline. I can do example. The deadline is Wednesday. The most the earliest that I can give this to you is Monday next week. And I will commit to that. But I cannot give it to you on Wednesday. If you tell me I have to drop all of these things that I'm doing right now, prioritize this one, I still may not be able to do it today. I still have to need tomorrow. I don't put myself in a situation where I have to multitask to meet deadlines. I have to set realistic expectations because I value the output that I give out to my and at my work. And that's something that's important to me. And my boss says, see that. And that's why they understand if I say, okay, this is something that cannot be done within the time frame. If you want this done, I will drop this another one that you want done last week. If you want to prioritize this, this is the best time that I can. You want me to prioritize this, even if I will prioritize this, it will still take me 3 days before I can submit it. If I do this together with the other job that I've been doing, it will take me 5 days, 6 days. And I have to be honest with them on that. Because I don't want them to have unrealistic expectations of what I can deliver. And that may sacrifice quality. And I do not want that. So you identify your top priorities. Um, if you have the control of how you do things, you give yourself all the list that you have and you identify the three based on, as we all know, certain criteria. If it's urgent and important, it's number one for in the hierarchy of what has to be done. Urgent and important gets first first spot. Urgent but not important, second spot. Important but not urgent, third spot. So that's sometimes how you um manage and decide on things. You have to have, based on this, you can have your top three priorities daily. But your daily priorities, if and when it cannot be done within the day, has to automatically shift over the next day. So if out of the three task priorities that you did for the day, the other one is left and pending for the next day, it has to carry out on the next day as a priority. And you only get to choose another two new things that you have to do. If there's a default task, okay, there's a default task, and you only have one left. So you have to be systematic about it, and you have to be practical about it. Many times, some people who works um, tend to start a lot of things and then stop midway, have problems midway. So prioritizing allows you to have control of your time. Prioritizing allows you to have control on your output. And prioritizing allows you to have focus and spare yourself from stress. You identify deadlines. If deadlines are not set, you have to set deadlines for yourself. Otherwise, you will just work on it slowly. I can't remember the rule that the speed at which task is done is dependent on how near or far the deadline is. If the deadline is tomorrow, it can be done today. If the deadline is Friday, it will take Thursday to finish. That's how that's that's the psychology of some people. If the deadline is tomorrow, it gets done today. If the deadline is Friday, it will take me Thursday to finish it all. And you have to set deadlines for yourself. Deadlines are important because it anchors you. Deadlines are important because it allows you to plan the time and effort you will be pouring in a certain task. If you have deadlines, you can plan ahead. If the deadline is tomorrow, I get to spend 3 hours or 50% of my time has to be spent on this one because this has to be finished. This has the closest deadline. When doing deadlines, number one, be realistic about your deadlines. If you're the one who sets deadlines for yourself, you have to be realistic about your deadline. Um, some people tend to people tend to uh, schedule deadlines too far ahead, meaning it's not realistic to finish the work at the time. Second is some people um, schedule deadline way late. That their psychology is, this can wait, and then that delays the job. And the impact of output, if delayed, is very serious for the company. If you do admin work and your output gets delayed, there are a lot of people who will be affected by that. It affects the management. It affects the people outside other departments. It affects the production people. It affects the people who do the service because you because of the delays that you cause. And because of that fear, we tend to rush everything. If delay has an impact, the poor quality of your output also has an impact on people. That's why you have to prioritize and you have to set deadlines. Focus beats business. You know, you look busy because you do a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that you are working smart, you're working effectively. Work requires focus, and deep and serious work that requires serious focus, and that's something that we should always look and consider. Okay? So far ba? Ano na nangyayari sa inyo? Are you still there? Say hi, say hello for me. If you are still there, guys. Hello? Hello? Ayan, meron pa pala talaga. Alam niyo ang feeling pag nagsasalita when you're alone in your room and I can only hear the dogs outside. It feels like I'm talking to myself. And mas nakakapagod pala when you're talking alone and you don't get the actual response from actual people. I've been doing seminars for a very, very long time, and uh this is the first time I'm doing a webinar. It's a new experience. So thank you for this. There. Hello guys. Hello, hello. Thank you for staying for tuning in. If you have questions, please type it on the chat box. Maraming salamat. Okay. Another thing that I want and that I think admin people should realize is being organized doesn't mean that you have to have a good memory. Organization is not memory. Alam ko na yan. Nasa isip ko na yan. It's on my head. You know? Memorize ko na yan. Carry na yan. It's not. Organization is not memory. If you rely on memory, mistakes increase. Especially in times when the work is taking much toll on your mental capacity. Um, Nakakalimot nga tayo on very special personal things, what more on processes that we do. Even if you work for years on a particular line of work or in a particular process, there's still a possibility that you will make mistakes, and the mistakes could increase over time because our memory is not always not reliable. Stress increases when if you rely on memory. If you forget something, and there are times that alam niyo yung experience na, alam ko yan, that, and if it happens to the process, if it happens to the job, and it happens under a very high pressure area, I mean high pressure situation, the stress increases really, and that's really stressful. Time is wasted. If you Because again, if you have a system, if you have a process, and you have an attached timeline, if you have attached time on how the system proceeds and works, if you have that, you you would have you'll be saving your time. You will not be wasting any time because it's already there. Excellence, if you want to be excellent at your work, create systems. Organize your work. It's not something for the OCD only. It's not something for the people who has ADHD, the people who has to follow. Everyone who works in admin should have an organized set of procedure for every part of your work. From the moment you start working, step two, step three, step four. And this is not just for the whole work itself. It also works for particular tasks. When you do reports, this is how the process should go. If you do emails, this is how the process should go. If you create new processes, this is how the process should go. If you do meetings, if you do coordinations, this is step one, step two, step three, step four. And that system has to be written. It has to be established. What gets written gets done. You cannot solely rely on your memory because that's not organization. That's just plain laziness. If you have if you have a procedure, if you have a process that you're following, a process that's in your head, you put it into writing. There's a lot of things that makes it beneficial. Number one is that writing it is helps you, it actually write it out. It actually trains your subconscious of being a master of it. Second is if you put down organization, the people who were because you're not forever be working in that same company. Well, that's how the trend goes. The people that will come after you, it would be easier for them because you already have a followed set of rules. Another thing is that turnover would be easy. Training would be easy. Onboarding a new subordinate would be easy. Put everything on paper. Create your own SOPs. Even if the company will not use it, as an admin person, you have to train yourself into creating SOPs for yourself. No matter how basic and how simple your SOPs may be. Create SOPs. Okay? Okay. So what needs organizing? What are the things that you have to organize and you have to create systems for? Time. You have to have calendar, deadlines. You should have a system for that. You should have a procedure for that. Digital files, very, very important. Um, Sometimes all of this work is really meticulous. It takes a lot of time, especially when you're dealing with, in the case of digital files, if you're dealing with a lot of files, it really requires a lot of time. There's no shortcut to it that will produce the same quality as you want it, but it has its perks. You know, filing it properly will make your life easier in the future. Promise. You have to have a system. You have to organize how you organize digital files according to type, according to month, depending on how you often need it, based back on the date, based on when it was created, based on the type of file, based on who is on the file, based on the brand, based on the topic. It's up to you. It depends on how your organization can maximize can maximize the filing system that you have. You have to have a system. Physical documents, and this is something that um, people who work virtually doesn't really have much experience in, but physical documentation, the physical documents organizing is actually um, more uh, painstaking and complicated than doing digital files organizing because drag, drop, save, transfer, stuff like that. Physical documents is a different thing all on its own. So I remember because the first job that I had was as a news reporter for a local newspaper, and I saw how they archive their newspapers from the 1960s. And it amazes me because, files and editions from 1961, 62 are still there. And you go inside this room, and all you see are endless rows of filing cabinets that have all of these files in place. And that requires mastery. Organizing physical documents require mastery. Arranging them, easy. Cataloging them is challenging. How do you catalog all of this? What would make it easier for what? How do you make research easier? Cataloging all of these physical documents. It's amazing. It's something that I'm really excited doing. Um, Another thing is that repeating tasks. If there are repetitive tasks inside of admin, outside of admin, and related to the admin, you have to have a procedure or a process, a proper process on how it should be done. You have to have a process of how repetitive tasks should be done. If you do not have, minsan kasi ang iniisip, ganun naman, that's how it's always been done. So, okay naman, wala namang naging problema. That's, that's a mentality for someone who's lazy. You know, organize it. Even if it's something repetitive, write it down. You will discover a lot of things if you write it down, if you write the process down. So again, organize, put everything into writing. What gets written gets done. If you have questions, please message it. I've been talking straight for more than an hour already. Okay, alone. Di ba alone, Milo? Alone here, Okay, process thinking. And admin people should be really, really good at this. Not just operations managers and operation officers. You have to have a process thinking. If you do a task weekly, monthly, or repeatedly, it needs a standard process, an SOP, standard operating procedures. It if it's repetitive, it has to have standard operating procedures. So how do you do it? If well, I'm sure many of you have already seen an SOP, I've read an SOP, but what it does actually is it breaks down the whole process. Step one, this and this and this. Step 1.1, step 1.2, this is how it should look like. Step 1.3, do this and do this. Because the importance of SOP, and I have been telling my bosses all of this, who doesn't have SOPs, I always tell them it's very important. Number one, it's a very important foundational document for a company. It allows you to look and understand the whole process by breaking it down. Second is that you'll be able to easily map out potential problems, potential areas, bottleneck, where delays happen. Number three, you would be able to anticipate the needs eventually. When it comes to this is usually the need that they have. Number four, it makes it easy to train people. If you're an admin and you do training, you have to have these SOPs. If you don't have, what these SOPs? Basics. Logging in, you need SOPs. Opening your emails, sending your emails, receiving your emails, filing reports, it has to have a standard operating procedure. Everything should have a standard process that everyone will follow. If you would be administrative head and you have to train people, that will make things easier. And what I told my boss is this: why I want standard operating procedures to be the first things that we do, because in 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 working online, turnover is very quick. Like, you can hire a VA for 2 weeks and then disappears. Hire a VA for 2 weeks and then realize it's not really good for the job. She's not really good for the job, and you have to, you have to let them go, and then you have to recruit someone again and do the training again. That will take 2 days. If you have the standard operating procedure, you just give it to the person and he can start working right away. That's what I told him. And that's why he says, okay, that's really important. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. If you have standard operating procedures, if newcomers are coming in and you have to train them, just give them the standard. This is how it works. And it will be easier for your life. If you would be training someone and you don't have an SOP and you rely solely on your memory, you could have mistakes along the way. It will be problematic. I tell you, that's the reality of it. Okay. Administrative work is leading without authority because again, we are not the heads of the organization. We are not the presidents, the vice presidents, the management. We are supposedly support. But as I said, it's invisible leadership. And you have to lead with authority. You have to lead by being dependable. Admin people should be dependable. Dependable in terms of somehow knowing everything that's going on. You know, um, the National Archives of the Philippines store all government documents. Well, that's something that I am not certain. I government doc. I really do not know. I really do not know. That's something that we have to research on. I do not have experience with the National Archives of the Philippines, but I do have archiving experience with some of government offices has their own archives and records offices. Like for example, the city government of Davao has its own archives and records office, which I have seen some of the documents in there. That's a quick answer to that. Anyway, so admins lead by being dependable. They have to be able to depend on you. The people working for the operations to be should be able to depend on you. The management has to be able to depend on you. You have to be dependable. If you are in admin, you have to be able to communicate clearly. And I could not emphasize this um I more. As a communications expert, clear communications coming from admin people is very important. Why? It it prevents chaos. It prevents confusion. It makes things easier for people both below and above. It's Communication is very important, and you have to practice that skill and you have to hone that skill more. Coordinating smoothly, you should be able to know how to coordinate well and not be stressed about coordinating people from here and there. And we manage upward, meaning it's bottom to top. Okay, so we manage the the organization from bottom to top. Having all of these qualities makes you a trusted department, if not a trusted officer. And that trust creates influence. It creates an influence and a reputation for people you work with, for people that are below you, in terms of organizational hierarchy and people who are above you. If you be able to have all of these leadership qualities as an admin person, valuable trust to be given to you, and you become, an important, not just an important part of the organization, but an indispensable part of it. That would be, I know this for a fact, because when I take jobs, I always make sure that I go above and beyond. I do all my organizing. I put everything in the paper because, well, writing is one of my strongest suit. I put everything in the paper, and because of the knowledge that I gained from all of these processes and organizing, I became indispensable to many of my bosses. And that's how you can negotiate your pay. That's how you can negotiate your schedule. You can do this and do that. Before I went into consulting, I had to work, you know, the usual hours in government offices. That's 8 to 5. And I know I had to reach a certain level of expertise and mastery so that I'll be able to, be a consultant for these offices. And I did. I did it not just by intelligence, I did it by management, organizing of my work, putting trackers, everything and everything. I did my due diligence in organizing and record keeping and documenting everything. That's why I was able to, become indispensable to the company. Emotional intelligence at work. Okay, administrative work requires, well, stress control, professional tone, emotional awareness, respect under pressure. And I this is very important because there are instances na pag admin, parang mataray, parang palaging galit, parang palaging may problema. And that shouldn't be the case at all. Admin people should be as calm as can be. You know, calm is a skill. It's a skill that's very valuable. You should be able to control your stress. If you cannot, you'll be burned out. You have to have professional tone. If you're not able to do that, you will destroy relationships. You will build walls between you and people that you work with. You have to have emotional awareness, or you will alienate people, or you will annoy a lot of people at work. And you have to have respect under pressure. You have to be able to respect people, even if they're already very annoying. It's not easy, but it's a requirement. You should have a certain degree of emotional intelligence at work. That's what makes an admin excellent. Having emotional intelligence. Okay, control. And this is part of the process that I have talked to you about. Control is very important. What does control mean? Control is to be able to track the tasks. You'll be able to monitor the deadlines. You can confirm completion and you can review quality. That's what control is. It's not like actually controlling people to do this, do that, now, 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 now. It's actually having all the information that you need. You are on top of things. This is what it means when you are on top of things. When your boss says to you, you have to be on top of this. It means you are able to track the tasks. What's done, what's pending, what needs to be done, what's needing for approval, and so on and so forth. You have to track all of this. You have to monitor the deadlines. What's past due? What's nearing due? What's already way, way beyond past due? You have to be able to monitor that. You have to confirm completion. Okay, this is done, this is done, this is completed, this is completed. And you have to have that information ready and quickly as they happen. And you have to be able, you will be able, you should be able to review quality. Look at the outputs. Look at what's done. Review it. If it's at a certain quality that you require. Completion is greater than activity. Being able to get things done is very, very important. Not just being busy with things. I'm busy. Being busy, too busy, but not being able to get things done, that's purely hilarious and stupid. You know, you have to have the goal. is to complete, not just to be active. The goal is to finish things, not just to be busy. Busy is a myth. Tools that can help you with controls, task trackers. There are um, there are apps for this one. There are collaboration apps. We have Monday.com, Asana, the usual things. But I usually create my own task tracker in sheets. And it's for personal use. It's not just for my my bosses or the people I work with. It's for me, so I can track everything. I do my own task tracker. Um, will I be able to show you a task tracker? Perhaps. But you have to have your own task tracker and you have to update it every now and then. I create tasks as an operations manager. I create task trackers for all of the departments that I am heading. So I can keep track of everything that's going on in the company day in and day out. Okay? You have to do status labels. Status labels meaning, is this done? Is this pending? Is this needing follow up? Is this for discussion? Is this on hold? Is this for revision? Status labels are very, very important. And I put that in my tracker. Weekly reviews, yes, I do weekly reviews. Actually, I do twice a week reviews. Well, on my new job because we have to move things swiftly. So I do weekly reviews. You review everything. You look at the tracker again. What's being done? What has happened? What's the problem? In my work as in the as a um in the company that does franchising, one of the problems is that we are a very big marketing group. We have, I think, 12, 13 people that works for marketing, five of which works in the Philippines, and the rest, I think eight of them works in South Africa. And we have a lot of tasks. We have a lot of brands under us. We have a lot of things going on. And it became very, very hard to track what everyone is doing. So I told I told our manager, I said, okay, I can help you with how we can organize this. I will do a task tracker for you. So I created a task tracker for all of the at least seven brands that we're working with, who has the same requirement, who has the same milestones that they need. And that allows us to look at okay, this is done, this is done, this is not done. That made it easier for us to track and to prioritize things. So and reviews were quick and reviews were easy because we can see it all on screen. That's the magic of task trackers. Sending is not equivalent to finishing. Okay. Sometimes you send it, it's not done yet. It requires reviews. It requires, it may go back to you for edits, for revisions. It's not finished if it's not completed, if it's not done. Sending is not finishing. Okay. Okay. This is the myth of time management. Ang dami sinasabi, you should be you should be good at time management. Dapat magaling ka sa time management. You may be able to do this and to do that. You cannot manage time, people. You cannot manage time. Time goes. It flows with or without your control. What you can manage is your priorities. You can manage your focus and you can manage your decisions. You cannot manage time. Yun yung myth. Hindi time management does not exist because you cannot manage time. You can manage your priorities. You can manage what you need to do in the day. You can manage what you will prioritize, what you will get done within the day. You can manage on your focus. You can either focus on one thing or do multitasking, which again, I am against. And you can manage on the decisions that you make as you do your job. Time management is a myth. Okay. Priority matrix. Okay. As I told you, in things that are urgent and important, there are three, not four. Hierarchy. Urgent, if it's urgent and important, it's priority one. If it's urgent but not important, it's priority two. If it's not urgent but important, it's priority three. If it's not urgent and not important, it's priority four. Administrative excellence grows in important but not urgent. Why? Because we are not supposed to be on always on a rush. You know, we we create foundations for everything. We do important job without having to be stressed about deadlines. Okay? You are an excellent administrative worker if you're already in the part that you do important things that are not urgent. Um, that's the focus of it. That's where it happens. Putting, uh, creating systems may not be urgent, but it's important. Creating SOPs may not be urgent, but it's important. It's not directly urgent because you can do you can continue with production. You can continue with the operations without having that SOP in hand. It's not urgent, but it's important, and that's where administrative excellence grows. Administrative excellence means doing what's important even if it's not urgent, and that's where systems live. That's where you create systems. Something's not urgent, but you know that you will be able to use effectively and use in the long term. That's where the systems live. Okay? Now, practical time habits. Some of this I practice. Some of this I not really. Okay? Calendar blocking. I don't really usually block my calendars, but this works for some people. Like, okay, I'll just do this task for this particular time and I'll block all of that. I would not add anything more to the calendar. 3 days straight. Calendar blocking. It works for a lot of people. Task batching, it works for some. Task batching is these batch of tasks on this certain time, and this and this. It works for a lot of people. I don't know why it doesn't work for me. Buffer time works for me. Buffer time, it's stop and focus and then return. That's buffer time. And saying by when, not yes. Yes. And that's what I told you about when I work with my boss. It's not yes. I will always ask, oh, when? By when do you need this? Okay, this cannot be done by that. This can be done by that time, by this time, not that time. So always ask and always say when. By when, not yes, not just yes, because we have to be realistic in how we do things. Time discipline because professionalism. Time habits differ for a lot of people. It works for some uh, time habits, practical time habits, or time habits hacks works for some people. That may not work for others. Find something that may work for you. Search the internet. Look at self helps. Listen to those different hacks. Find something that works for you. And if you do not have something yet, you have to find something. Because if not, you'll be burned out. I assure you that. Okay? There are still a lot of things that I was supposed to talk about in well, I was not able to put on the slides. And it includes looking at admin task as a communication hub. You know, you have to sit at the center of information. And that's what I said earlier, that if your organization works by communication flowing from the admin going to the people directly and not going through you and without your knowledge, there's something wrong with that. Because by the time the president, the head of the organization, steps out for a while and communication breaks and you don't know what they have been talking about, you will get lost. And that happened between my client and because we have a new marketing head that just comes into work and they've been doing meetings. And I always say to my boss, let me know if you are doing the meeting because I want to sit down and I want to take notes so I can track what you have discussed. So they did 2 meetings that they discussed things of and that I did not know of. So what happened is that okay, they went when the marketing manager files her report towards me. I said, this I did not know about this, so I don't know how to judge this one, what's the requirement for this one, and so on and so forth. And it turns out she did not do a good job. So I asked the boss, do you know about this? He says, yes, we've been discussing about it. And I told him, if you want our organization, if you want this to work properly, you have to look me in on everything. Because if push comes to shove, it's me that will be facing you, and if you will be discussing things with me when it comes to operational um, management. And not knowing and not being center of information is a big problem for me. If you don't sit at the center as the hub of information inside the office and you are the admin officer, that's a serious problem. Okay? You have to understand. You have to know everything that's going on, every task that's coming out, every work that's assigned to some people. You have to know everything because it's the only way you can track and you can control. If you don't have the information, you cannot control what you don't know. You cannot track what you don't know. So you have to sit on that. You have to discuss to your boss, if at all possible, and if you can, that giving you information is necessary. The only way, boss, for me, para matulungan ka in operations, is to keep me on the loop, to help me understand, to let me know what's going on in the company. And that's the best way for me to help you. Otherwise, I could not. And you have to tell them that. Okay? Systems and checklists are very, I'm wrapping it up. It's 7:48. Systems and checklists are very important. Most of the people in admin matalino, but we should not overly rely on our smarts, on our intelligence, because there will be times that it will fail. It will fail to remind us of certain things. Admin work is all about systems. Admin work is all about checklists. Have checklists. If you don't have checklists, you should. Checklists are necessary. It will ensure that nothing slips through your finger. It will make sure that nothing gets past your gaze. You have to have checklists, you have to have systems, you have to have SOPs. These and you have to have action plans. You have to have you have to have a process of organizing things. Admin work is not as easy as filing things on a piece of paper and recording it and putting it somewhere to be accessible. It's more than that. Admin work means control. Admin work means precision. Admin work means consistency. Admin work, administrative excellence requires planning. It requires systems. It requires checklists. It requires proper communication. And it requires you to be at the center of information of your organization. These, ladies and gentlemen, friends, this what makes admin an excellent department or an excellent and integral part of the company. I think that's how I will end my talk because it's already 7:50, so I still have 10 minutes to take on questions. Maraming salamat. Okay? Nasa na ba si host natin?
Okay, hello. Am I
Ayan.
audible? Hello. Ayan, okay. Thank you so much po, Mentor, for that very clear and very comprehensive na discussion, no? So, ngayon, let us proceed with the open forum. So, if you have any questions or any clarifications, now is the time na i-ask na po. So, you can use the chat box, type your questions in
Yeah.
there, and our mentor will be happy to answer as many as possible. And habang nagta-type po kayo, please don't forget to fill out our attendance sheet by scanning the QR code na makikita ninyo sa inyong screens right now and or by clicking the link that will be posted in the chat box. So ayan, may mga questions na po ba? May mga questions? Okay, last call. May mga questions po ba? If wala, if klaro na po ang lahat, naka-share screen na po siya. Hindi po ba siya nakikita? Naka-share screen pa po. Okay na po ba? Sige, yung iba po, baka may questions pa. Okay, thank you din. You're welcome. Baka may questions pa po. Okay, last call for questions. If there is none, if klaro na po lahat, kindly, ayan, may certificate po ba? Yes, there is a certificate. So, processing po na certificate will begin after ng webinar, and then it will be sent through your email po. Ayan, nasagot na po ba yung tanong? Okay, you're welcome. So, okay, sige po. Kindly message us na lang po sa Facebook or email us with regards to your concern po. Okay, wala na po bang question? Sige, if klaro na po lahat, kindly send heart emojis sa chat. Ayan. Okay, wala nang questions. Klarong-klaro naman po kasi ng pagkaka-explain ng ating mentor, no? Kaya wala nang questions. Sige, ayan. And we would like to invite you to our upcoming webinars for the month of December, of course, under Scale Up Training and Development. So if ever interested po kayo in any of these topics na makikita ninyo sa new screens, you can register through the QR codes na katabi ng kada topic. Ayun, may question po tayo sa chat mentor. Basahin ko na lang po. Hello, mentor. May question po.
Yeah. I'm reading
Ay,
it
sige po.
actually. With
Si
regards to archiving for government documents, sandali, ano ba yun? How do governments, institutions, and agencies store their documents? Through COA po ba? Not necessarily. I think, and I am not an expert on this one, but I'll try to answer it according to how I understand it, okay? Um, Archiving of an example on the case of the national archives uh, of the Philippines. This is what I understand. It it stores all government records um that are final. They don't store correspondence, basic correspondence. They don't store basic in exchange of documents. They store, um policies, permanent records and stuff like that. That's, with finality. Sa COA naman, documentations required by COA are documents related to audits and spending. That's what COA requires. If COA asks for more than just accounting document, if it asks for supporting document, it is related to, the accounting purpose. The archiving of government documents is something that um, I think uh, that happens within the government office itself, because I know a lot of government offices that do their own archiving and archiving it together with the National Archives of the Philippines, especially for memorandums, joint memos, policies, regulations, stuff like that. That's those final um, final documents. In the case of local governments, they have to have their own records office. That's where all records, correspondence, policies, and every document goes to. Dapat may mga sariling records division ang lahat ng mga local government offices. National agencies has to be working with the National Archives and Records in order to store and have their records archived properly within either their own agency building or within the National Archives. That's how I understand it. Again, I'm not an expert on this one, but that's how I understand it. Sana po it could help.
Ayan. Thank you, sir. Thank you, mentor, for sa pagsagot. Ayan. And thank you din sa mga participants actually na very participative at talagang may mga questions sila ano. So, okay, wala na po bang mga pahabol na questions? Any concerns pala with regards sa certificates? You can message us directly na lang po or email us. Ayun. So, if wala na pong questions, I think that concludes Administrative 104 webinar on office management for administrative excellence. Once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Stay safe. See you in our next webinar. And remember, we are your scale up partner. Good night, everyone.